Hi, I'm Laura Rolfe, host of Powered by Franchising and CEO of Mint Franchise Consultants. It is the middle of summer, and I have the opportunity to speak with a fun franchise that's all about marketing and getting the word out for local businesses. I've got Patrick Brennan from NTV 360 joining me on today's show. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to have a conversation today.
Me too. I've seen firsthand the work that you do at NTV 360. You created a short video advertisement for Mint Franchise Consultants, and it is so powerful. The power and messaging of advertisement to bring people into local businesses is awesome. So we're going to dive into that in just a few minutes. But let's start with how you got involved in franchising.
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to working for NTV 360 and the parent company that owns NTV 360 about 5 years ago, I had no experience. So it was all brand new to me. My thoughts on what the franchising world even were at the time are pretty similar to probably what you see from a lot of people that meet with you, what I see from a lot of people I meet with that are just kind of dipping their toe and kind of learning what this world is I thought it was all food and beverage. I thought of, the big name brands out there and things like that, and didn't really understand and know how many options were really already out there and how powerful having a playbook and a system that supports you could be. So long-winded answer, but I'm fairly new in the grand scheme of things.
Yes, well, sometimes many of the people that I interview, once you get into franchising and you understand what it's all about, you tend to stay because we're a franchise family, and we not only support our franchisees that we help become entrepreneurs and invest in the business of their dreams, but we're a pretty tight-knit community between consultants, franchisors, suppliers, funders, etc. So glad to have you in the franchise family, Patrick.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Yeah, sorry about that.
So for listeners who are just hearing about NTV 360, can you give us a high-level overview of the franchise system and what it means to be successful with NTV 360?
Absolutely. So we specialize in indoor digital billboards and other digital marketing services. And even when people hear the term indoor digital billboards, a lot of times, you kind of have a little bit of an idea of what that would look like, maybe going through an airport, seeing an indoor billboard in that sense. But in reality, we are a network of TVs throughout the community. So we place these screens in places where people do their day-to-day living, where they eat, shop, and play, from the grocery store to the gym to malls to any sort of restaurants, bars, coffee shops, doctor's offices, you name it, really anywhere in the community that people spend time, we're placing screens in these locations. So as people go about their day-to-day lives in these communities, they're seeing and being exposed to the ads playing on these indoor billboards over and over and over again. So that's really the concept of the model as a whole. And then in terms of success, it's really getting to know your community, saturating that community with screens, with partnering with these businesses that are either hosting one of the screens or paying to be seen across that network of screens, and becoming almost like that mayor of the town, if you will, that's out there really out and about in the community helping these businesses.
So if I were a franchisee for NTV 360, what is my predominant role? Is it networking with businesses? You said the mayor of the town. Can you describe what that looks like for our listeners?
You nailed it. It is being that conversationalist that goes out and meets with people, and that isn't always like one-on-one meetings, things like that. Of course, that's part of it, but it really is networking, joining your local chamber of commerce, BNI groups, referral groups, really getting to understand that community. Because what you'll find too is once you get to know one or two or a few business owners, they all know each other. Similar to what you were saying about the franchising world, a lot of times these communities and the leaders and the business owners within them really, really rally around each other and support each other. So that's exactly what our franchisees do. They become members of that, become ingrained in the community, and are primarily meeting with those business owners from there, because we handle all the back end work for them that allows them to really just focus on the relationship side of things.
So do I understand it correctly that if I'm a franchisee, I have no inventory, I don't have a storefront, I don't have any employees. So this is a pretty simple business model.
You're correct. The only time that our franchisees will have employees is if they go out and hire someone to basically be a sales rep. But other than that, 100% correct. No inventory, anything like that.
So, as far as sales goes, I'm going to network with area businesses to encourage them to place these digital billboards in their waiting room of a doctor's office or in a corporate center lobby or places like that. And then I'm also going to sell advertisement, correct?
Mm, You're correct.
Okay, simple, so simple. Um, so, who does the graphic design and creates these digital billboards for the franchisees, Patrick?
Absolutely. Our team does. So we have entire teams dedicated to singular purposes. The graphic design team is one of those where they make all the content for the screen. So all of the ads, commercials, whatever you term that. They also make marketing materials, websites, logos, things of that nature. And then we do have back-end support teams for the digital marketing side of things, a back-end support team for the sales support side of things, and then even the software, the tech support, things like that.
And so you had reached out to me and gave me the opportunity for NTV 360 to create a digital ad for mid-franchise consultants. I emailed you my logo, a little bit about my business, my website, and I think it was 3 days, and I had a proof, and I didn't need to make any changes to it. It was perfect. So it's just that simple. So the franchisee finds a business that's interested in creating a digital billboard, and they have certain elements that they send to NTV 360, and you take it from there. Is that correct?
You're absolutely correct. It's all very streamlined, very fast, but the quality, more importantly than just the speed, the quality is extremely high.
So, what are some of the requirements for to be a franchisee of NTV 360? The financial requirements, the investment costs, and who makes a good franchisee?
Yeah, so our financial barrier to entry is very low in comparison to other opportunities out there. You need $50,000 all in liquid to be able to get started. The franchise fee is 35,000, and that can go up if you want a larger territory, but essentially 35,000. And then in terms of the type of people that we're looking for, just people. We don't need or even necessarily want hardcore salespeople. Of course, if you have a sales background, that's fantastic. But that's not really what we need in this business because it is more of that conversational approach where you're getting to understand their needs in terms of marketing, sense and getting to know these people. So at the end of the day, we just want conversationalists who aren't afraid to go out, network, and shake hands.
How much time would a franchisee expect to put into the business, and what does the revenue model look like for them?
Yeah, so I almost always overestimate that. I would rather, kind of overdo that, if you will. So I think minimum around 20 hours a week. But in the early stages, as you're really learning the ropes and getting out there, really getting to know your community and things like that, around 40 hours a week is what we recommend. But this is not as hands-on as your typical model because it is, you run it from your house. You aren't bound by brick and mortar hours of being open from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. or anything like that. So you can do it on your own time, but about 20 hours a week minimum is what we recommend.
Okay. And then you have residual recurring revenue. While the billboards are running, you're earning revenue on an ongoing basis. And as long as those ads are driving business to the businesses who are advertising, they're happy, you're making money. Is that correct?
You're correct. And a lot of these advertisers sign annual agreements, but they pay monthly. So while you do have the recurring revenue, you also have the stability and security of having long-term contracts.
So I think a lot of our listeners connect with stories of successful franchisees who have invested in the business and have grown the business, and they'll hear from those business owners during the validation part of the discovery process. But can you share a story or two of some successful franchisees and what is the reason behind their success?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple that I think we have a lot, but one that I really like to talk to and listen to his story is a gentleman named Fred Davis. He's 80 years old, and by his own story, he said he retired from what he was doing previously, which was commercial real estate development, to basically go golf every day. And he said his goal was to get better at golf and just go out and play. Well, he said he did that for a couple months, came back, and he was worse than he was when he started. So he realized, the golf thing may not be his forever thing in retirement. So he started looking for a small kind of part-time business to start and run. And that's when he came to us. And his goal was to put up 20 screens, which is what we recommend, you start with, and kind of build it from there and do this alongside with his wife. Well, that was 18 months ago, and he now has over 200 screens. The name of his business is On Target TV, or the name of the network. It's now basically been rebranded to Fred TV because people just call it that around town. He's in all these different venues, and everywhere he goes, his family told us he's basically like a celebrity where everybody's like Fred, Fred, because they've gotten to know him so well. And he's doing, extremely well for himself financially as well. So win-win all around. But I like this story because he even said he wanted to do something kind of small, part-time. It's now blown up into a pretty big, corporation, if you will. Um, Another quick story. We have two fantastic people in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Their name's Blake and Sarah. They're both farmers. Grew up on the farm. Their families are both involved in farming in that sense. Both self-admittedly, when they started this, very shy individuals. They were not, necessarily the most comfortable going out and talking to people and things like that. Well, a couple years later, they now have a thriving network all across Cheyenne. They're actually partnered with the city to help them distribute messaging out into some community or city-owned venues as well. And I'm happy to report that one of them, Sarah, is now full-time into this, and we're hoping that Blake over the next year will be able to go full-time as well. So they're able to actually step out of farming and into this full-time and really change their entire lives and lifestyles and things like that just from doing this.
What a big change going from farming to digital indoor billboards. I have spent a lot of time in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I grew up in northern Colorado, so Cheyenne Frontier Days and visiting family in Cheyenne is a big deal. So I know that Cheyenne isn't a large major metro area. It's a mid-market and small mid-market. So I could see this doing very, very well in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Is there a type of market that NTV 360 does better in, or are you good in all markets? Can you address what makes a good territory?
Yeah. We are in markets of all shapes and sizes, from towns of 1,000 people to some of the biggest cities that are out there. But that being said, to answer your question, we're kind of looking for that in between in most cases, if possible. So whether that be suburbia or maybe that mid-market kind of size of a city, if you will, like a Cheyenne or something like a Boise, places like that. Those are some fantastic markets to really develop because you're able to kind of almost saturate the community more easily than if you're in a super massive market like a downtown, Houston or something like that. So that's kind of that sweet in between that we are looking for because you still want to be able to be that community oriented network and really get enough saturation to stand out.
So it'll work pretty much anywhere, even in a major metropolitan area, I think. But I like the homegrown feel, the mayor of your town. You can definitely be more of that in suburban areas or those mid markets. So as far as territories, are they exclusive to the franchisee, or do you have shared markets?
They are exclusive.
Okay. What type of training and support does NTV 360 provide for their new franchisees?
So we are about as hands-on as I believe anybody could be. We're willing to do almost anything outside of physically having that conversation for them because that's just the one element we can't, necessarily do, right? But when they sign on board and come on board, they're going to go through a very lengthy onboarding and training process. It takes a few weeks to get through it because we want to make sure they're fully educated, fully excited, fully prepared once they finish that process. Part of that is in person, part of that is virtual, but it does take about 3 weeks. From there, their first focus is on building and developing their network. We have an optional field training session as well, where we'll send a field trainer out to them in their territory and help them develop that market, land their first what we call venue partners, the locations they're partnering with to place the screens. And then from there, they have unlimited one-on-one business development coaching guidance. They'll set recurring meetings with our client services team, who's constantly training and developing them. We have text lines, phone call lines, email lines. They'll get on Google and Meet and Zoom calls. And so whatever that franchisee's preferred communication style is, we'll match that and make sure they have all the hands-on support that they need. And we also have 2 workshops a month, which are webinars where we invite all of the franchisees onto one session where they can learn, communicate with one another, collaborate, and those are very informative as well. And every single Monday morning, we have Money Mondays, where they're able to start their week with a webinar as well and get excited, engaged, and kind of kick off their week with, a session to kind of tune into what's going on.
Is there a collaborative approach amongst the franchisees? It sounds like there's lots of opportunities for them to connect with one another.
Extremely. And I know it's kind of cliche to say it's a family type of thing, but it really is. We basically have that family and very tight-knit community. Everyone knows everyone. So yes, definitely.
Well, I want to be Fred's partner. Going out, and I wanted to be a golfer. I did want to be a golfer. I had a golf pro at one point say I would be pretty decent at golfing, but in all honesty, I think I'd have a better success rate of going and being the mayor of my town and providing the value of digital billboards in my community.
I love that. And something I will say, sorry to chime in there, but even with Fred, he has now partnered, of course, with the local golf courses, and they now have all these events and stuff like that, to where he's able to set up a screen inside of the pro shop, and things of that nature. And so he's playing a bunch of golf still, while running his business. So kind of cool that he gets to do both.
He might even do some trade. Trade is big business in digital advertising, and I'll advertise for you at a discounted rate if you give me some free golf. But
100%.
whatever Fred's secrets are, you'll have to evaluate NTV 360 and learn some of his secrets. Maybe he'll share some. So as far as what does the discovery process look like? How long does it take? Are you the point of contact for anybody who's interested in learning more about NTV 360? Share more about what people would learn throughout the discovery process with you.
Absolutely. I am the primary point of contact, so you'll be working with me directly. And it's usually about a total of a 3-week or so process, depending on how engaged, you are in your time. I'm available quite a bit, so I'm here to help. But with that process, the first kind of point of contact will be showing you our entire model from A to Z, what that looks like, what we provide, what the cost structure is, things of that nature. From there, we'll sit down and map out what your territory would look like on the next session. From that point, you're going to have your validation session where you meet with other franchisees, talk to them about their lives, the model, everything you need to know. And then you'll meet with our training and development team, the client services team I was mentioning earlier. And at that point, if you're excited, ready to roll, then we'll get you started and get you onboarded.
How long does it take to get onboarded and start selling ads and putting those TVs in different locations in my community?
It's very fast. So as soon as the franchisee or soon to be is ready to go, they get started. They start training pretty much the next day virtually, and then schedule out the rest with in-person, all that. But to answer your question, it's basically 3 weeks after they, come on board, they're ready to start going out, building their network and, making money.
So as quickly as 6 weeks from the time I have my first conversation with you, Patrick, to the time I start making placements of those digital billboards and those ads, 6 weeks, that's really darn fast. I also hear
Absolutely.
that you're very cash flow positive as long as a franchisee is following systems. There are no guarantees. I do want to tell that to our listeners. There's no guarantees on how quickly you would make money in this business, but on average, you validate very well that a lot of franchisees are cash flow positive within the first 6 months in operation.
Correct. We have a very fast break-even point, to your point. And the nice thing is, with having those long-term contracts and things like that, it allows you to scale and have that compounding revenue add up really quickly.
So this is the Powered by Franchising podcast. So I've always got to ask my guests, what is the power behind NTV 360?
I could tell you it's the software and the tech, because we have proprietary software, all kinds of cool stuff in terms of the tech side of things. That is a huge piece of what we do, of course. But the reality is, it's the people. Something that is literally palpable about our culture and our team is that everybody actually cares, and everybody's super passionate about our franchisees and their success and everything we do. When we're talking about adding in a new service for our franchisees or a new digital marketing product or something like that, it's not a lighthearted conversation. It's taken very seriously, because we know this is people's livelihoods that then affects their community and the businesses within the community. So we may even, we take it very, very seriously in that sense. So I would definitely say the people behind our brand.
Well, absolutely. And all the interactions that I've had with you and other team members at NTV 360, I would agree. It is definitely the people that make the difference.
Thank
So
you.
what has you most excited about the upcoming year or the future of franchising in general?
Yeah, franchising in general, I think it's the fact that people are becoming more aware of their options and the diversity within franchising, kind of what we started the conversation with, it is more than food and beverage, and there's a lot of great food and beverage options. So no, nothing wrong with that. But there's some really cool players entering the space, and with the technology side of things, and with even us, of course, I'll plug us growing. I just think it's going to continue to evolve in all the best ways.
Well, excellent. Is there anything else that our listeners should know about either you or NTV 360?
We are growing so fast. We're selling out parts of the country pretty quickly. So if this is something you're even remotely interested in, let's have a conversation. I'd be more than happy to guide you through the process.
Yes, I've done a few territory checks recently, and some key markets that are very, very hot are gone. And so, if any of our listeners are interested in learning more about NTV 360, being the mayor of your community and helping promote local businesses through digital billboards, please reach out to me you can connect with me on my website at mintfranchiseconsultants.com. And we'll have an initial conversation, talk about the investment requirements. We'll reiterate that again. And then I'll work with you and Patrick to make sure that this is a right fit business. Patrick, it's been absolutely delightful having you on the Powered by Franchising podcast today, and look forward to connecting our listeners to you to invest in their local communities across the country.
Likewise, thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate it.